How do you install BMX crank bearings? Are you ready to get your BMX bike running smoothly? One of the key components to focus on is the crank bearings. Let's break down how to install them step by step. First, you need to prepare the bottom bracket shell on your BMX frame. Start by cleaning it thoroughly. Once it is clean, apply a thin layer of grease inside the shell. This will help prevent corrosion and make the bearing installation easier. Next, it is time to install the bearings. Grab a rubber mallet and a piece of wood. This will help you avoid damaging the bearings. Tap the first bearing into one side of the bottom bracket shell. Make sure it sits flush and evenly. After that, insert the correct size spacer tube inside the shell. This spacer is important because it prevents the bearings from being crushed when the cranks are tightened. Now, tap the second bearing into the opposite side of the shell just like the first. Once both bearings are in place, it is time to insert the spindle. This is the axle that connects both crank arms. Make sure to grease the spindle thoroughly before sliding it through the bottom bracket shell. You want equal lengths of the spindle to protrude from both sides. If needed, gently tap it with the rubber mallet to seat it properly. Now slide the bearing covers onto the spindle ends. Apply grease to the exposed parts of the spindle. This will protect the bearings and ensure they rotate smoothly. Next, attach the crank arms to the spindle. If you have a right-hand drive wheel, the sprocket should go on the right crank arm. For a left-hand drive, it goes on the left. Loosely bolt the sprocket to hold it in place. After that, it is time to tighten the bolts. Use greased bolts to secure the crank arms firmly to the spindle. Check for proper clearance between the crank arms and the BMX frame. If you notice any rubbing, add spacers to maintain clearance and avoid damaging the frame. Finally, make sure there is no play in the crank arms. The bearings should rotate freely without binding. Tighten all bolts to the recommended torque settings for safety and performance. A few practical tips for BMX riders. Always use a rubber mallet instead of a metal hammer to avoid damage. Grease is essential at every contact point to prevent rust and reduce friction. Properly installed bearings and cranks will improve power transfer and reduce wear. If you are upgrading to a 3-piece crankset, you may encounter sealed cartridge bearings or adapters, but the installation principles remain similar. By following these steps, you will ensure your BMX crank bearings are installed correctly, giving you a smooth and reliable ride that can handle the demands of action sports BMX riding.